inside of the Cafe Kubal studios with locations inside of Galisanos Children's Hospital as well as 401 South Salina Street, 3501 James Street, 208 North Townsend Street, and 324 West Water Street, as well as their mobile cafe that will come to you, your place of business, and your neighborhood, and local delivery, which will come to you as well, right to your doorstep, and no delivery charge for Onondaga County. You can get my DT Special Pumpkin Spice Chai at any of these locations. I get mine with almond milk. You can get yours today. The sun is out, but it's cool, so maybe you want an iced one, maybe you want a hot one, but you can go and get one of those today. And I appreciate all of the great partners we have in the community for all the positivity and everything they're bringing. Speaking of great partners in the community and appreciating people, Mike Aresco is here with us this morning on Wake Up Call. No stranger to the broadcast. The American Athletic Conference Commissioner is here today to talk about a lot of different things, obviously navigating through everything we've had to deal with this year and finding a way, right? It was all about, today's message in the annoying moment of the week and lead and top dog is all about finding a way, finding the positivity. So with that being said, I proudly bring him on the air to speak with us about finding a way, navigating through that, and taking a challenge and looking at adversity right in the eye and facing it and seeing what we can do to advance forward and not back down. So with that being said, Mike is here with us. Mike, how you doing today?
Hi, Dan, and it's always a pleasure to be with you. Always enjoy your podcast and radio show, and I think you do a great job. But pleasure to be with you, and it's been a stressful time, no question about it.
It definitely has. It's been a very stressful time in the world that we live in today. How have you navigated it? Speak with me on that. What you have done. I mean, you're a commissioner. You're a human being in society. You're a husband. You're a family man. You have your friends. You have your extended family, and at the same time, you have a conference that's looking to you for leadership, and the schools and all of these programs and the student athletes and the coaches and the teachers and everybody in the communities that could be affected by it. Whether you think about it every day or not, there's a lot of people that are affected by the decisions that you and your office make. And I know that this has been a very trying time for a lot of people. So how have you handled it, and what can you say to that point?
Well, Dan, there's no question about it that you feel the responsibility. When you're a leader, you have to lead. And you have people that rely on you. You have a lot of situations that can be affected by things you do. And I've taken, all of us have in the conference, this very seriously. There's nothing that we've faced quite like this, as you know. I hope we never have to face it again, but it's been a challenge unlike anything we've had. And it goes right to the heart of health and safety and the well-being of our student athletes. So it's a matter of conscience. You take it extremely seriously. And, your question, okay, what have we done to deal with it or to get through it? I think in part, we've tried to be organized. We've tried to have a plan, and we've taken it day by day. And you can't panic. You look at things in a measured way. We set up a medical advisory group 7 or 8 months ago. A group of distinguished doctors with a few trainers as well, medical trainers. And they've given us great advice, and we've relied on their guidance throughout. And we looked at this thing in what we felt was a sober, measured fashion. And at the outset, back in the late winter, spring, when obviously we had pretty much canceled everything. The NCAA tournament, baseball, all the different spring sports. We looked at this and said, okay, if we're going to play in the fall, we're going to have obviously protocols in place, testing protocols, operational protocols. And if we feel we can't do it safely, we'll recommend to our board, our presidents, that we shouldn't do it. But we felt there was a way to do it safely, and we got to work, and the medical group devised, testing protocols, and testing has evolved, and the kinds of tests have evolved for the better, obviously. But we felt all along that our student athletes would actually be safer in our protocols, that you can contract this virus, unfortunately, very easily, and there are a lot of ways you can contract it. But we felt that with the testing we would be doing and with the health screenings, with all the other things, sanitation, that our student athletes would be safer within the protocols ultimately than if you just let them go, and they could contract it outside in any number of ways, and they'd have less incentive to avoid this kinds of situations where you do contract it. And those aren't bad situations. They're not doing bad things, but as you know, during a pandemic, certain things that are normal become abnormal in terms of trying to avoid the virus, whether it's gatherings, whether it's playing video games with friends, whether it's doing XYZ, any number of things. So we felt that ultimately we could do this. Now, it's been 11 weeks, and we've gotten in most of our games. We've, out of a lot of caution, an abundance of caution is obviously, I don't want to sound trite, it's a term that's probably overused, but we have been very cautious, and we have postponed games and even canceled some that we might have been able to play, Dan, but we felt that ultimately the protocols called for caution, because what you want to make sure you're doing is controlling any potential outbreak. You want to make sure that you're not putting anyone on the field who has the virus. And the good news is that we've had really no evidence yet of transmission on the field, and that's been that's been the consensus among I think the NCAA doctor, the other conferences, even the NFL, and so that's a good sign. You never know in these situations, but we've tested rigorously 2 PCR tests, which are the gold standard a week, in addition to an antigen test day before the games, which can pick up. It's not quite as sensitive as the PCR, but it can pick up somebody who might have slipped through the cracks. And so we've had, and if we spot cases, we do the isolation, we do the quarantining, and we try to figure out whether it's safe to play. I can't tell you it hasn't been stressful. You're on edge every day of the week, because you get test results pretty much every day. Not everybody tests the exact same day, and so you're getting results on a rolling basis. And you hold your breath. You just don't know. You could a program, Dan, could go 8 weeks without a positive, and then all of a sudden have an outbreak. All it takes is 1 or 2 student athletes to bring it in, and next thing you know, it might spread to roommates, to meetings, to that sort of thing. And the coaches in our league have been very careful to try to do social distancing, the mask wearing. They've tried to do everything possible, but as you know, it's a very contagious virus, and it's just hard to control. But I'm pleased. I'm pleased with where we are. I recognize the challenges. We're not out of the woods yet, but I think we have good testing protocols in place, and I think overall health and safety has been the emphasis. It will remain so. The testing is becoming more sophisticated, but we were happy with the way we're testing. Basketball is going to present, Dan, an even bigger challenge, because you're playing indoors in confined areas. The players are in each other's face literally the whole game, close contact with no protective equipment at all. You've got referee officials that are going to be in the same situation. And you're going to have to reconfigure the benches, the scorers tables, all the different things. It's not going to be easy. And again, the indoor part of it, as you know, the virus spreads more easily indoors, according to all the research. And that's going to be the real challenge. And with small rosters, if you get a positive and you have to quarantine, you could end up wiping out a team for a couple of weeks, and that wipes out a good potentially 20% of your season. So it's going to be a real challenge. We're working with the local health authorities, and we're lobbying the CDC to try to be able eventually to, if we did daily testing, to test out of quarantine. And also, if we do daily testing, maybe there are kids you don't have to put into quarantine, because you're checking on them daily, and you know that they're free of the virus. So we'll see how that's going to go. But I've generally, it's been a long haul for everyone. These kids are getting tested, dozens and dozens of times, and it's stressful for them. They're trying to be really careful, and they're also in the meantime trying to play a rugged sport, which, as you know, is not easy in the best of circumstances. And they've had to deal with game cancellations. They had to deal with disrupted practices and schedules. And I'm proud of them. I'm proud of what they've done, and we'll just have to see where it goes from here.
You look at this and the decision to play the ACC came out with their schedule first, and the SEC followed suit. Big 12, you and in the AAC doing what you did and deciding to play, and all of that. I know that we're not through a whole season yet, but we're in college football week 11. So overall, obviously there were staggered starts and whatnot, but we're in week 11. What are your thoughts on the fact that you were part of that group that decided to play from the jump, and got out there, and now have, in the case of like a Cincinnati, and a lot of these, have had, at least 6 games under their belt at this point as the commissioner of the AAC. What are your thoughts, hindsight 2020? I know we're not through it all, but looking back on the decision to play and how far you've come, knowing that games have been postponed and moved and this and that, but yet, you're still in a place where, these teams have played 5 or 6 games at this point.
Yeah, a very good question, Dan. I think we're proud of the fact that we did play for what we think were the right reasons, and we think that to some extent, our decision has been, justified by what's happened with other conferences deciding to play. And they said, well, we have new testing procedures, but I think some of those testing procedures probably could have been in place earlier, but I'm not going to second guess. They had good medical advice and they were extra cautious, and I understand that. You have to respect that. But I felt that, and look, it was teetering in August. If you go back to mid-August, and I think August 11th is a date that for some reason sticks in my mind, it didn't look like we were going to be able to play, because all it would have taken is one more so-called P5 conference to decide not to play, and I'm not sure that wouldn't have collapsed everything. You had the Big 12, you had the ACC, and you had the SEC, and the Big 12 was very concerned, as we all were, about the myocarditis issue, and that was one of the key aspects of the Big Ten deciding not to go forward. But we felt we had tracked that issue up to that point for months already. We knew all about myocarditis. We knew it was a potent, and by the way, it has not turned out to be as prevalent as was feared, and it has turned. We've managed it quite well. Everybody has, but we knew about it, and we brought in an eminent national cardiologist to talk to us, and he said that's not a reason not to play. You do, if you get positive cases, you do the heart workups afterwards, and ultimately it's not a common disease. It may be more common with this virus, but you still can deal with it. You can treat it. And what if a student athlete got this disease outside our protocols? They were no longer playing and they were asymptomatic. They might not even know if they developed myocarditis. They wouldn't even know it. So this way, you were getting everybody checked. Everybody was getting various heart workup, things, and so consequently, we felt that ultimately we had a handle on that. And then there was that Penn State study that was very alarming, and it was walked back basically almost the same day. This data is not accurate, and so it looked for a while like it might just all dissolve. But the Big 12 held firm, and we knew that if those P5 conferences didn't play, it would be very hard for us to be a complete outlier and ultimately play. But we were convinced that we could do it safely. Yeah. We also knew that there'd be disruption, Dan. We knew that we'd miss some games. We knew that, and what have I learned? I mean, we've learned a lot. One of them was that the non-conference games were problematic, and they were problematic because we have strict protocols in place, and I'm proud of our protocols. I think they're tougher than others have had, and we have really been, and this is not in any sense to sound smug or self-satisfied at all, because anything can happen at any point. And you're just keeping your fingers crossed. All you can do is put the protocols in place, and we've got great doctors who debate every week about every game we're dealing with. We put into place what we call an ACRAT. It's an American Conference Risk Assessment Tool, and it takes into consideration the number of positives, the number of quarantines, the number of players available, whether your campus is spiking, whether your community has a community spread that makes it risky to play. All sorts of things come into play, and you get a score. And if the score is if it's a negative score, it's good. If it's a positive score, it's not so good. And if it's too high, then decide you're ultimately not playing, and there may be other reasons you don't play. But the point is, we put those protocols in place. In the non-conference situation, there were some conferences and schools that weren't doing what we were doing, and yet some of them said, okay, we're going to do this, but then when we dug deeper, we found out, well, that wasn't necessarily the case. And some of it was not, this was not a question of dereliction or people being careless. It just, people had different protocols, and we felt strongly that we should stick to ours. And so we had to postpone a few games based on that. We had some issues with non-conference teams. But what we realize is when you play a conference game, everybody's been together talking about these issues for months. Everybody understands the protocols. Everybody understands what they have to do. And it's just easier. And so with basketball, we've gone to 20 conference games, a full round robin, and we have 11 teams. And I think that's better. Now, we will play some non-conference games in basketball, but we did learn that was, if you look at our schedule, the checkerboard really occurred more with the non-conference, season. As you know, Houston was going to play Baylor, and then Baylor had problems. SMU was going to play TCU, and TCU had problems. We had a school or two that had some issues of their own, but we had some schools that we just decided we can't play in the non-conference. In addition, we had the rug pulled out from under us with some of the non-conference games. Pac-12 decides not to play. The Big Ten decides not to play. And even if they do play, they're only playing conference games. We lost several games there. We lost games with the ACC when they decided to only play one non-conference game. We lost some games with the SEC. They decided to essentially play just their conference games. So the non-conference schedule ended up being disrupted. But we still, I'm pleased that most of our teams will play between 9 and 11 games. There might even be a team or two that could play as many as 12 if they make the championship game. And that's pretty remarkable when you think about it, because you have to do it safely. In other words, nobody's playing if there are issues in the program, if there are positives that cause you not to play. So therefore, this means that they've managed to get through this safely. And we'll see where it goes from here. We're running out of real estate too. The one thing we did by playing early, and by starting essentially on time around September 5th, and there were issues about when kids came back to campus, would it spread the virus? Should we wait? Should we wait till late September, early October? We didn't see the rationale for waiting, that long, because we felt that ultimately, if things happen, they're going to happen, and why not give ourselves some flexibility, because we have had to postpone and cancel some games, and we have December 5th and 12th for makeup games. Now we're going to run, potentially we've had to reschedule some games. We've had only 2 conference games so far, and now we have 2 with Navy, so we have 4 conference games that we've had to reschedule. 2 have been rescheduled. The Navy games we're working on right now. But, you run out of real estate at some point because you have those 2 weeks, and then our championship game was moved to December 19th. So it's been, it's been a work in progress too. We've learned as we've gone along, and here's the overall. I don't want to sound metaphysical here. The overarching philosophy was, we're in a pandemic, but we have to live. We have to do what we can do. We have to try to give our kids the kind of experience that means a lot to them. There's a mental health issue, and the cardiologist warned us about that. We knew it already, but they reinforced the warning. They said, look, we've had to tell kids, because we're cardiologists, we've had to tell kids they can't play again. They have a heart issue, and it's devastating to them. And if your players can't play this year, and it might be the last chance they'll have to play in college, there are going to be mental health issues. There's going to be depression. They may not take some of the precautions they would take if they're playing. If you're playing, you feel a responsibility to your teammates, and you just, there's more incentive to avoid situations, as I said, not bad ones, but ones that can spread the virus, like parties, like gatherings, like, interactions. And so consequently, that was an issue too that we definitely considered in all of this. You can't just ignore that. It would have been easy, I think, to throw in the towel back in the summer and early fall. But every action you take, Dan, has a reaction. And what would it have been better for those student athletes to just be, turned loose and say, okay, we're not playing, and nobody's monitoring them, nobody's testing them regularly. They're out there either at home and or off campus or even on campus, and it wouldn't have been necessarily the best situation, for them. And I think what we've done since then, I think has basically, I think, demonstrated that you can do it. But there's one. I'll close this part of the discussion with a quote that I always like. Edward R. Murrow, years ago, the great CBS correspondent, said, "Difficulty is an excuse history has never accepted." And he was talking about World War II and the problems that the United States faced.
Yeah.
And obviously in our case, it's a more of a microcosm, but we couldn't view difficulty as an excuse for not doing some things we thought we should do. And it's been difficult. I can't tell you. We meet several times a week with our medical group. We meet before all the games are played, and we go through everything, and we have these lengthy discussions, and doctors don't always agree on everything. We've had all sorts of issues, with operational details that we've had to deal with, and it's not been easy. There have been a lot of little nuances that, you tend to forget after they're over, a lot of problems we've had to face. But you can't let that deter you. Now, at any point, and this is the key, at any point, if we had felt that this isn't safe, that we've determined there is transmission on the field, it's just not safe, cases could have been avoided, then we would have closed it down without question. And also, we had a plan early on that said, okay, if these things happen, we may decide to just, forego the season. At some point, if, for example, we were losing so many games that we couldn't play a representative conference schedule, which right now every school is on track to play the full 8 games in the conference schedule. It may not happen toward the end of the season if we have cancellations, but right now it's looking like we're going to be able to get everybody's games in. If we had found that community spread was so great, and it is a concern now that things are ticking up, not so much in our counties, thank goodness, much more in the upper Midwest, Northeast, other places, but we've done pretty well. Texas is trending upward a little, making us a little more uncomfortable, but we've nowhere near the kind of spiking that would cause us to feel that the season wasn't safe to play. So there were things in place that had they come to pass, we would have said we're closing it down. But we felt we had to try, we had to at least get started and see what would happen. And if we had to close down, we were prepared to close down, and we would have said, look, we did our best. We tried to give these kids a great opportunity. We weren't able to. We recognized it, and let's move on. So that was really our mindset, Dan.
That coming from the commissioner of the American Athletic Conference, Mike Aresco. Mike, before I let you go, during all of this, you did make the move from Rhode Island to Texas for the headquarters of the American Athletic Conference. I know it's under different circumstances, and I know it's obviously not, status quo, walking into the office and seeing everybody, doing their thing and being there, shaking hands and having a big meeting room and whatnot. It's a lot of virtual still going on, but what is life like from the viewpoint of Texas as this conference now has a new focal point, a new kind of center place to do all of your work and to have, your office? So what has that been like despite the circumstance? What's it been like to be in Texas and to make that move?
Well, Dan, I've been a New Englander, all my life. Even when I worked at CBS, I lived in Connecticut and commuted, and my wife and I enjoyed Rhode Island, but it wasn't any longer the right place for this conference. We really love it here in Texas. Also, I think it's going to be really good for the conference to have the office here. Now, we have a terrific office. It's really very nice. It's not over the top, but it's really nice. And we've got a beautiful new studio where we're going to produce features and maybe even halftimes and other things for ESPN Plus and for our website. We've got most of our people down here in Texas. There are a few that needed to stay back in Rhode Island for now, and one or possibly two that will, stay there, permanently because they can work, remotely. One would be dealing with ESPN on a regular basis, and as you know, they're in Connecticut. But there's several reasons we did this, Dan. One, we're going to be closer to most of our schools. As you know, we've become more of a, South and Southwest conference, with Texas, with Houston, with Dallas, with Tulsa, with SMU in Dallas, with Tulane, with Memphis, with Cincinnati. We're even the two Florida schools. We're very equidistant from a lot of them. We've got a great airport here in Dallas. So the travel is going to, once things settle and we go back to some kind of normal existence, and hope that sooner than later with the news of the vaccine possibly showing a lot of promise, we we'll be closer to our schools. Travel and everything will be easier. We do a lot of our meetings in Dallas anyway. Our tournaments, basketball tournaments, men's and women's, are going to be in Fort Worth at Dickies Arena, which is one of the nicest arenas I've ever seen, pro or college. It's beautiful. We're going to, so 45 minutes away, we're going to have our tournaments. The key thing also is we have a school here, SMU. That means people are coming in. For example, even though I haven't traveled, none of us are traveling. I live literally my wife and I were able to find a condominium that we could rent, that people had decided to rent. And so I'm literally a mile away from SMU. I can drive down the road and go right to SMU, and I can go to all the games. And I've gone to several games already and said hello to the visiting president, the visiting AD, obviously Gerald Turner, the president of SMU. Now I can't get out of the field because I'm not tested. If I'm not in the bubble per se, but I can still go to the suite, go to the press box, visit, do the social distancing, wear the mask. But eventually to have a school here, you've got football, basketball, Olympic sports, ADs, presidents are coming in all the time, and you can say hello to them. And also, we get media coverage in this market, and it's a media-driven world, and we've been very aggressive with the media. We needed to be to get our conference the kind of attention we felt it deserved and wasn't going to get otherwise. And the Dallas Morning News has covered us in a way that we weren't going to get any real coverage in Providence anymore. We weren't in the Big East. It's a basketball-centric place. Providence College is no longer in our conference. We really got very little, if any, coverage in the media there, whereas the Dallas Morning News covers us. I just did a lengthy article with Sam Bloom, a writer for the Dallas Morning News, and he covers our conference, obviously, and so a lot of that stuff goes viral, so it's good to have that as well. So I think the move here is going to be great. Now, we have people going into, I allow people to go into the office. They trickle in once in a while, as long as they wear the mask, they do the social distancing. We've got good hand sanitizer, all sorts of other things that we're doing. But we haven't really opened it per se. I'm not requiring anybody to go in. I go in from time to time, but most of us are still working remotely, working from home. And I've also got a few people in Rhode Island that I kept on because there's no reason now, with everybody working remotely, to worry about having to hire new people here. You want to wait until maybe you can have some face-to-face contact. Now, we did hire a new executive associate commissioner for men's and women's basketball. We've combined that position. His name is Brian Thornton, and he's an absolutely terrific guy. He's got great background, great resume. Played at Vanderbilt, transferred to Xavier and played there. Has had a coaching, administration, and obviously a student athlete background. And we did hire Brian through Zoom interviews and that sort of thing. I haven't even gotten to meet him personally because obviously we haven't had that kind of contact, but I will eventually, of course. So right now it's a very unusual situation. We're all in limbo. We're all in this kind of strange environment. It's a little surreal, but we're getting our work done, and I think Dan, I'll close by saying we're all zoomed out. We've all had so many. We were doing 2 conference commissioners. That's all the commissioners, all 32 of them. 2 calls a week. We do several medical advisory group calls a week. We do an FBS. We've had an FBS call. FBS commissioners, the 10 commissioners, for months now. We have one every week. We have a G5 commissioners call every week. We have basketball consortium calls. We have Zoom calls with our own ADs every week, sometimes more than one. We have board calls with our presidents. There's rarely a day when you don't have a series of calls, and so it gives you structure to the day. And when you're at home, it's kind of odd. Obviously, it's different. You miss the personal contact. I do miss that. That's why I think it'd be good to get back in the office. I don't love the remote business. I know some companies may go to that and may continue to do it. I would prefer, obviously, everybody getting together. Maybe the vaccine will finally do it. But no, the move here to Dallas is going to be good, I think, for everybody. It's a great community, dynamic city, continues to grow. Has had some issues, with the virus recently. There's been an uptick here, but if you go about your daily business, you don't really notice it. And almost 100% of the people I see when I go into town, or we have a little village here, Highland Park, which is very nice on the outskirts of Dallas. Everybody's wearing a mask, and so you just hope that obviously that people continue to do that and we get this under control. But New England was great, loved it, but this is the right place for us.
Coming from the commissioner, Mike Aresco of the American Athletic Conference. Mike, as always, I appreciate your time. I appreciate all the information that you share here and everything you bring to the table. Very valuable at this time and always to be able to say this. I look forward to our conversations in the near future. That the toughest conversation is you and I talking about what team do you think is going to be in the New Year's Six Bowl from the American Athletic Conference. What team is playing the best at the time? Is Cincinnati going to stay undefeated? I hope that, those are the conversations that you and I get to have more often, more frequently, and that those, that our worst problems are trying to figure out, which team's going where as opposed to everything else. So cheers to a positive time of sports analysis being the top thing and not all of this other stuff. And obviously my best to you and to the health, happiness, and safety of your family and yourself.
Well, you hit on something really interesting, and that is we didn't even talk about any of that today.
Yeah.
This was all about, and that's been my focus for 7 or 8 months now. I would, when the next time, if you're kind enough to have me on, and I always, as you know, anytime you ask me, I'm always anxious to be on because you've been great. I really enjoy the sessions. The questions you ask are always great. You follow our conference, you know what's going on. It's really terrific to be able to be with you, and maybe we can talk about whether Cincinnati has a shot at the playoff or the New Year's Six, or whether other teams in our league might get that New Year's Six slot should things change. It'd be nice to focus on that a little bit, and I have begun to. I've been arguing about whether the number of games should matter, and I think it should. All those kinds of things. But in the meantime, though, again, I always enjoy being on with you. I hope you and your family and all your listeners stay healthy and safe, and look forward to getting together again, Dan. And let's hope that at some point, we all get through this and we get back to more normal living. Obviously, the backdrop of this has been a tragedy, and it's really unfortunate. We're trying to keep our heads up and live as normally as we can, but it's been hard for everyone. And we can't forget that we're dealing with athletics, and we're dealing with an age group, fortunately, that does really well. Even if they unfortunately contract the virus, they do extremely well. They're either asymptomatic or mild symptoms, and that's all good. But we can't forget that it's not been good in other age groups, and it's been a really, really tough deal for everyone. And so we can't forget that. But thanks for having me, and I really appreciate the time. And I appreciate you and what you're doing for college sports and the insights you're providing to your listeners. So I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Mike. Take care, be safe, and we'll talk very soon.
Thank you, Dan. Take care. You too. Bye now.
Thank you. That coming from Mike Aresco here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets life. And touching on that point that we didn't discuss, where is Cincinnati at right now? The fact that they're undefeated, the fact that they're a top 10 team in the nation right now, ranking-wise. We didn't talk about the fact that the college football playoff and the New Year's Six Bowls could potentially be moved, if need be, in order to, allow there to be time for games to be made up and different things to be had so people have a fair shot at the college football playoff, if there is such a thing. And not such a thing as a college football playoff, but a fair shot. And, there's a lot to be had and a lot to be said about this. The fact that the American Athletic Conference has seen Tulsa rise. I talk about Tulsa a lot and Philip Montgomery and the fact that I really applaud the fact that they've believed in him and, have seen that the win-loss record is not an adequate representation of what he is building and what he is doing and all these games that they're in and their willingness to play the Oklahomas and the Oklahoma States and really, really push themselves and play inside of this conference. And the fact that they're second in the conference right now, 3-0 and right behind Cincinnati, and of those teams in the top three, Tulsa, the only team that's not ranked, even though they pushed Oklahoma State to the brink, they lost 16-7. SMU is ranked in the nation's top 20. They are 7-1. They've been able to play the majority of the games. They have 8 games that they've played on their schedule, more than any other team in the American Athletic Conference, except for Tulane, who also has played 8, and they're 4-4. But SMU, 4-1 in the conference, they're ranked. Memphis, UCF, Navy all have winning records in the conference. Houston's 2-2, Tulane's 2-4, Temple's 1-4, East Carolina's 1-4, South Florida is 0-5 inside of the conference. Every team has at least one win this season. Tulane is 500, and we see UCF, Memphis, SMU, Tulsa, and Cincinnati all with winning records overall. And the top 2 teams as far as wins go, Cincinnati at 6-0, SMU at 7-1. So, it is important to make those notes. It is important that football is being played, and, we found a way to do it. And I don't disagree with the commissioner, Mike Aresco, saying, I think the kids are safer with us than they are left to their own devices. Because if you have all the kids there, you have them all in one place, and you have them getting tested. They're getting tested like 3 times a week. In some of these cases, there's coaches that are talking to me about getting tested 3-4 times a week, and everything that they have to go through and the protocol that they have. And as soon as somebody comes down with anything, that person is quarantined. Then they contact trace and see who is that person connected to, who do they touch, who are they around, and then they have to figure all of that out. So and Mike did talk about the advisory board, the health advisory board, the COVID-19 board that they put together to really tackle this and figure out a way to navigate through waters we've never been through, a waterway that we've never had to navigate through before. So I applaud the American Athletic Conference for what they've done. I applaud Mike Aresco for being at the top of the heap of this conference as the leader because he does care so much, and I didn't need this year to show me that. And I applaud the fact that the teams have navigated through it, and they've fought, and they've wanted to get out there, and they've wanted to play, and God bless them, and I hope that we continue to get good news, and again, I talked about if any of the players test positive and you keep them off the field, you get them tested, you get them in the proper protocol, you contact trace, and you keep that off the field, that if the players on the field on this side don't have the virus and the players on the field on this side don't have the virus, he's talking about, that there's not really a sign that they're transmitting on the field, and how can you transmit a virus that you don't have? So that's a positive. And I think if, I was at school right now, I think my parents would worry about me. But at the same time, if I'm like, Mom, I could be at home not being tested at all, and I'm getting tested here multiple times a week. We have doctors here that want to make sure that I'm safe and healthy and ready to go. And there's also the notion that the school wants to play. The school wants to win. And, so if you go down, like, they want to make sure you have what you need. And unfortunately, we look at situations where, people talk about if the president gets sick, they have the best of the best care, but then like Joe Smith in some random town in Wyoming may not get that. And I don't think that that's fair. I think we should all get the best and proper care. And, but I think if I'm at school, I'm getting tested a ton of times. And if something happens, there's that thought of hopefully some type of protection. And the fact that I'm there and I'm with my team and I'm not at home, because if I'm at home and I don't have a season, maybe I'm going out, maybe I'm doing this, maybe I'm doing that, and that could spread the virus in my community. So I think it's imperative to applaud the hard work, dedication, and determination, and to see that it's not all about the money. And to some of these leaders, and somebody that I believe in, Mike Aresco, is that, he wanted to make sure that he could do this in a safe way. And if he couldn't, then there was going to have to be an option for that. And if he could, then, we're seeing that play out. In the majority of games, we've been able to see them. We've been able to have them be played. This week, Tonight on Friday the 13th, we'll see East Carolina play at Cincinnati. On Saturday, November 14th, we'll see Army at Tulane. So Army, obviously a non-conference game for Tulane. South Florida will play Houston, SMU at Tulsa, Temple at UCF, and that's what we're going to see for this week as far as what we have. And the standing state, that this conference has gotten to play a ton of their games. Like I said, Cincinnati with 6. Tulsa has played 4 this season. SMU's played 8. Memphis has played 6. UCF's played 6. Navy's played 7. Houston's played 5. Tulane has played 8. Temple's played 5. East Carolina's played 6. And South Florida's played 7 games. So a lot of these teams have been able to get it going. Tulsa is the one at 4 right now, looking to kind of catch up here. But it's good that they've been out there. It's good that we're not seeing a transmission on the field. And the players look like they're enjoying it. They look like they're having fun. And you know what? Yeah, you want to be a fan in the stands, but at the end of the day, I want to see it. I want to see these games be played as long as it's safe and it's healthy and it's okay to do so. I want to see these kids be kids. I want to see them enjoy their lives. I want to see them make the most of it. There's a finite time in college. There's a finite time in playing sports. So to me, I don't want to take anything away from people. And I see that firsthand all the time dealing with all the high school players that I deal with here in the community of Central and Upstate New York. You have no idea. The decisions being made by these adults all over the place, the effect that has on our future, the effect that has, you may not have liked high school, but you got to go. These kids, whether they like it or not, it's getting taken away, given back, taken away, given back. And, it's so easy to talk about something from the outside. Right? It's so easy to talk about something that doesn't affect you. You can make these decisions almost like with no heart, right? Like just an expressionless decision because it doesn't affect you. But when something does affect you, then it changes. Now it matters, right? When something's on your doorstep, now it matters. And life shouldn't be that way. You should care about people. Whether or not you're in their situation, you should care about them. Because there's going to come a day where you're going to want somebody to care about you in your situation, good, bad, or indifferent. And if they don't, and you didn't, you can't be mad about it. You will be, but you shouldn't be. Because hypocrisy has no place in this world, or in any world, in heaven and on earth. So it is important right now to think about decisions, what those decisions do, how they affect people, because people matter. Every person. Every color, every background, every nationality, everything. Everybody matters. And when everybody matters and every single life is precious and every single person should feel healthy and should feel safe and should have access to living their dreams and being happy and being all that they can be, and nobody should be held down that's a good person out there doing good things. We have to remember to help each other. We have to remember to think of each other. And you have to remember that these kids want to play. They want to be out there. And if they don't, they can opt out. They have the choice. You've seen numerous players do it. In the middle of the season, I don't want to play anymore. Fine. There's a Pittsburgh player that did it this morning. So they have the right to say no. They should also have the right to say yes. So I applaud the American Athletic Conference and the conferences around the country and the people around the country that are trying to find a way to do things to the best of their ability. I've been to every Syracuse game here in the Dome. There's maybe 40 of us there besides the team, and I've been fine. Thank God, we've been healthy, we've been safe, and it's been a fantastic experience. They didn't have to let us in, and they did. And I applaud that, and I thank that. And I'm happy that we got to play. So, with that being said, be smart, be kind. As always, if you don't feel good, stay home. Get tested if you feel you need to be tested. Don't spread something. Think about other people. And remember that the decisions that you can make from a cushy chair far, far away can affect somebody for the rest of their lives. So be smart in your decision making. Think about other people. And always, in my opinion, trust in something bigger than yourself. We'll take a step aside for a fast break. We'll come back right after this to wrap up the week.
Cafe Cabal Mobile Cafe brings the cafe experience to you. We'll roll out to your neighborhood or office, ready to serve our locally crafted espresso bar to our loyal patrons. Inquire at cafecubal.com. Cafe Cubal, coffee for the soul.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, located on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, is home to over 40 flavors with more than 200 flavors in their total wheelhouse. Sky's the limit for this sweet and savory Central New York company. Keep it local at your parties, fundraisers, wedding showers, baby showers, and more by calling 315-450-MA-PA. That's 315-450-6272 for popcorn bars with custom flavors and colors at your upcoming event. Make sure to visit them on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. And for more information, go to maandpazsnacks.com. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you? The Millhouse Market, located on 3790 New York 13 in Pulaski, New York, is worth the drive every time. Make sure you make your way out there today, but download their app before you do that on the Google Play or Apple App Store. You'll have their entire menu at your fingertips, from their rice bowls and quinoa bowls to salads and homemade dressing, homemade breads, homemade desserts, specialty pizzas, traditional pizzas in the brick oven, and over 30 sandwiches, all named after the families that helped to settle today's Pulaski. Rich in history, rich in tradition, rich in great customer service, and concoctions and combinations that your brain wouldn't even think of, but your taste buds are going to thank you for. Head out to the Millhouse Market with contactless pay on the app and grab and go, just driving up to their window, picking up your food while sitting in your car. They make it easy. They help to keep us safe and socially distanced. And on top of all of that, when we do finally reopen, they will be ready for that. And they have consistently been working to get better. You know, in these last 7 or 8 months, the places that aren't just getting by, that are working to improve, working to get better, working to evolve, I applaud that so much. I like to think of myself as one of those places, and the Millhouse Market as well. I'm proud to have partners in this community that never give up, always strive for the best, give all they can, and believe in themselves. You mean a lot to me, and I appreciate it. With that being said, Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on Facebook.com/LiveNowDT, MixLR.com/WakeUpCallDT, and on WakeUpCallDT.com, all inside of the Cafe Cubal studios. And we have locations for you all around Central New York: 3501 James Street, 401 South Salina Street, 324 West Water Street, 208 North Townsend Street, and inside of Golisano's Children's Hospital. You can also get the mobile cafe to come to you, and local delivery, which is free for Onondaga County. No delivery charge for Onondaga County. You can get all that information by going to cafecubal.com. That's cafe, Kubal.com. Or by going to wakeupcalldt.com, and on my Central New York tab, clicking on that tab on Cafe Cubal, and you can have the order form there to have the mobile cafe come to you. You can click there to get the form, and you can click on local delivery to order right there off of my website. So make sure that you do that and get the DT Special Pumpkin Spice Chai. Really excited about everybody trying that. I love it so much. I might get one today because I'm a little chilly, and it's sunny out, and I just, want to treat myself. So maybe I'll bring my buddy over there. We'll see. MonPazPopcorn.com's What's Poppin'? Online promo code DT20. Whether you're picking up in-store or you're having it delivered to you anywhere in the country, use the promo code DT20. Don't take yourself out of having 20% off. It is there for everyone that uses Ma and Pa's Popcorn.com to place their orders. DT20, DT20. And I want to thank Carvel DeWitt for the annoying moment of the week. Chick-fil-A Cicero and Juanita Ward, my co-host, for lead, learn, evolve, ad-lib, and deliver. The top dog of the week honor going out to all of you and all my fighters out there. Never, ever quit on yourself. Don't ever quit on life. Don't ever quit on God. Keep believing in yourself. Top dog of the week brought to you by Canine Camp Dog Daycare and Canine Campground Dog Boarding. And, of course, Mr. Mike Aresco, the commissioner of the American Athletic Conference. As always, you can find us on social media at WakeUpCallDT, on Facebook, Twitter at CallDT, and Instagram at WakeUpCall_DT. Have a fantastic weekend. Be good to yourself. And as always, and very proudly, God bless, no stress, do your best. Check us out on all of our stuff. Find us by searching Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We have so much coming up for you. I have a lot of stuff that I want to add to the archives. Spotify, Stitcher, MixLR, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, YouTube, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, Podbean. Search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Find a lot of great content. Very excited to share that with you. And, of course, make sure that you're with us. Set that dial, and don't forget it on any of your devices. Make sure you save wakeupcalldt.com, and make sure you save facebook.com/livenowdt to watch us live, and save MixLR or download the app, and you can find us there by searching Wake Up Call DT, and save us, become a follower there on MixLR, and that will give you exclusive access to being emailed every time we go live to make it easier to listen, as if it's not already easy already, and to talk with us in our live chat room, mixlr.com/Wake Up Call DT. Every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. A big shout out. We will prevail. We will succeed. We will do this together as a community. #support CNY. To my Central New York and Upstate New York companies, I appreciate you. I applaud you. I love you. I thank you for everything you do, for your belief in me, for everything you've done during this tough time. For those that said thank you to you, and for the thank yous you haven't heard, thank you, Cafe Kubal, Carvel DeWitt, Wildcat Sports Pub, K9 Camp Dog Daycare, K9 Campground Dog Boarding, Avicoli's, Chick-fil-A Cicero, Honda City of Liverpool, Millhouse Market, Trapper's Pizza Pub, and Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn. Make sure if you're online at maandpaspopcorn.com, use the promo code DT20 for 20% off. That's DT20. And on Avicoli's, use the promo code AVS10. That's AVS10 for 10% off at myavicolis.com, AVICOLLIS.com. Have a fantastic day. Be good to each other. Be good to yourself. And I'll talk with you soon. God bless.